Hello and welcome to the To Be Frank podcast. I'm your host, Frank A. Today we have a new guest. This is my sister, if you can't tell. We look very similar without a beard, but we look very similar. So a lot of people say that we are siblings, and they're right. So today, this is Faith. Everybody, welcome Faith to the podcast. Thank you very much.
Hello, folks.
Yes. So today is more of a targeted episode. We have a specific topic that we're going to be talking about today. That's why I asked Faith to come on. But before we get into that, I'd like to go ahead and go through a couple of the things that we like to do here on the podcast. So we're going to start with our daily top 10. So today's daily top 10 that I asked Faith to prepare for was top 10 bands. She is a lover of music, as am I. So I know when we did Josh's podcast, we talked about songs. So trying to kind of keep things in the music genre a little bit. So Faith, I will allow you to start.
Of course.
Since you've barely said anything so far. But go ahead and start with your top 10. Give some reasons why, if you feel like it. But go ahead.
Don't.
I know you probably didn't even complete your list.
I did not.
Which
That is correct.
typical. But go ahead and just talk about your top 10 in order however you want to.
Okay, there isn't an order, so there's that.
Okay, well.
The Beatles. Sure you've heard of them?
Is that your number one?
No, but kind of. I don't know. They're all kind of, I don't know. Five Sauce, also known as 5 Seconds of Summer. Reliant K. I'm not giving reasons for any of these, sorry.
That may or may not be on my list as well.
Mayday Parade.
Dang it, I knew I forgot one.
Oasis. Some of these I'm regretting. Winnetka Bowling League. You know who that is?
Yeah.
They're cool.
I remember you getting a text on your phone one time. I was like, why are you joining a bowling league? So, yes, that's the only reason I remember that band.
They're cool.
Isn't that Duff's husband's band?
Yes.
Yeah. I love me some Hillary Duff. Is that it?
There's NSYNC. I put on there.
Of course. But dang it, I knew.
So
I knew I was going to probably try to steal some of hers, but now I'm regretting part of my list.
That's all I got.
That's all you got? Okay, well, that was a good list. No reasons, but that was a good list. So my top 10 is a little more poignant. It goes back to a lot of the songs that I chose for our inaugural episode. But number one, I stated this before, it's Under Oath, obviously. Number one band all the way around. There's some songs that I'm like, I could have done without that one. But the rest of them, I mean, they just speak to me, and I love listening to them. It's weird. I could fall asleep listening to their songs. They're very loud and screamo. You should check them out. But everybody else in my family hates it, so maybe that's why I love it. I don't know.
I do not hate it.
Faith doesn't, but my mom can't
Not
stand
my
it,
favorite,
and Sarah hates it. The kids headbang to it, so maybe they like it. Number two, Paramore. Also have stated this in the past. Paramore is the jam. Some of their newer stuff is like, okay. But the majority of it is really good. I can pretty much sing every single line to all their songs as well. There's a couple songs I know how to play on the bass for them. Let's see. Reliant K, number 3. Classic. They are so amazing. Thank you for making fun of me on video. Appreciate
Anytime.
it. Number 4, Elevation Worship.
Oh, shoot.
I have stated that I'm a Christian, obviously, but worship music is different than Christian music. I am not a fan of Christian radio music. I don't hate it. I have stated that in the past that I do hate it.
A few times.
A lot. It's just not my thing. There's a couple songs and a couple artists that are good, but I'm more into worship music. That's what I play typically at church. Shout out to Ocean Way Church. And the next one is a complete far left turn from Elevation Worship, but Queen. I love Queen. That was the number one song, Bohemian Rhapsody, on my top 10 songs list. So
Nice.
kind of had to throw that in there. Fall Out Boy. Thanks for the memories. Panic at the Disco. So good. Pentatonics. It's a little bit of a different genre. They do kind of everything. Covers. I think they've done some originals. I don't know. Mostly covers. They're a vocal band. If you don't know about them, what hole have you been living in? Home Free. That is the country version of Pentatonics. I am not a country fan, but I am a home fry. So, yeah. And then, last but not least, it could have been higher. It's not necessarily in a ranked fashion other than the top 2. But, TRB. This is Josh's band that he's talked about a little bit too. I've played with them off and on a couple times doing some different shows and things. I was on their album Unbroken. You can't see it, but there's an album above us in their studio right now. But TRB, they are family, so I had to throw them on there. If I didn't, I would probably not be able to use most of this equipment. So there we go. Shout out to Josh and TRB. Love you guys. So that is our daily top 10.
Yay.
So before we get into the topic again, I want to let you guys know, continue to send your requests, whether that be for our daily top 10 or topics or guests or whatever segments. Continue to send them in. When this video gets released, we may or may not have been able to release some of our t-shirt designs. If we haven't, be prepared. We're going to be releasing them, and we're going to get those things out there so you guys can vote and be able to help us decide what kind of design you guys want to purchase. And then we'll have those up on all of our social medias. There'll be a link down in the description more than likely, or some kind of photo thing. Josh is the producer, so he'll take care of all this stuff with all of the links for our social media. Faith can plug her own in a little bit. But yeah, so send in your requests, and we will definitely read them. So yeah. Thank you for sitting completely silent during the majority of this, Faith. Perfect for a podcast. Good thing we're videoing this, or else people would think it's just me. So, all right. Well, let's get into this topic. I've hinted around it a couple times. So I asked Faith to come on. I thought she would be a little bit more reluctant, but she kind of said yes immediately. So, but today's topic episode is directed towards, stop making fun of me, is directed towards autism. So Faith is autistic, self-diagnosed some, but she'll get into that more. But I wanted to have her on to be able to give her a platform to talk about it. There's still a lot of things that I don't know. There's a lot of things that I do know. So just wanted to bring her on so we can kind of discuss it, let her talk more about it. Just kind of open some people's eyes and ears a little bit. So if you want to, you can kind of get into it about how you kind of started leaning towards this, or if you want to start early at your childhood, how you thought you were weird. I mean, I don't really know. She had a giant forehead, by the way. Yeah. So, yeah, take it away, Faith. Go ahead.
All right. So, autism definition is a neurological condition or disorder, disability, whatever. Different people say different things, but I didn't know for 19 years. Yeah.
And how old are you now?
21.
Okay, just making sure that I was right about that.
And okay, so I was on Pinterest one day randomly and saw something. I don't remember what it was, but it was about autism, and I didn't like literally think that's me like right when I saw it, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to read it, and then almost instantly was like, wow.
Like a light bulb went off, like this one. Thanks, Josh.
And then I completely like dove into research.
So you kind of felt like it gave you an answer to a question that you didn't know you had.
Wow. That was good. Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really good. So it's fine. Okay. So so you were on Pinterest and you kind of just found something and we're like, hey, that sounds really familiar, and just kind of went with it. So get into the research a little bit so we can talk about that.
What do you mean exactly?
Like, what research did you do, like, to figure out? Because before you get into that, how do you self-diagnose, or how did you get diagnosed with autism? I know it's typically in like young children, So how does it work whenever you're an adult? How does that work?
So that's the thing. Most people think it's just in children, but autistic children turn into autistic adults. It doesn't go away.
It's true.
So, and it's like a really complex, misunderstood thing. So it's hard to, and like one of the main things that autistic people struggle with is like communication. So it's hard to explain yourself.
Like all of the awkward pauses that we've had so far in this episode. Yeah, I mean, I've taken a couple autism tests when everything was like really blowing up about autism and things, just to kind of see. And according to some different tests, I am a little bit on the spectrum, but the spectrum is so vast, and so they're still trying to figure it out. I mean, I remember when I was younger, everybody had ADHD if they were, a little more, fast-paced or couldn't focus or things like that. Now it's more directed, towards autism diagnosis. And, there's different proponents of like vaccine stuff, and then you're born with it. Like there's all these different things. We're not going to get into that necessarily. But talk more about, the diagnosis as far as, being an adult. Like how do you even get to that point? Like, hey doc, I feel different. Like how do you do that? You talk about.
Well, it's complicated, and there's not like a one way kind of answer to that. But for me, like I'm a private person, so I spend a lot of time before I said anything researching and all that. And I watched like thousands of YouTube videos and read like blogs and articles and like the clinical side too, which isn't always accurate, but like literally anything that exists on it. I was kind of into that for like a year and a half, maybe more than that. And then I knew that I had to mention it to someone to be able to figure it out for sure.
Get the ball rolling.
Yeah. I mean, I knew for sure the whole time, and I usually doubt everything. So, yeah, I don't know. And then I wanted to start therapy for anxiety, basically, for the most part. But, and then I picked someone that specialized in autism.
Right.
Also. And then, lost what I was saying.
It's fine. Just talk about it. This is a free flowing thing. I've already mentioned this on the podcast before. It's just a discussion. It's a conversation. I mean, whenever you're sitting outside without microphones or a camera in front of your face or anything like that, there's pauses, there's conversation. It's just a place, an open place. So feel free to take your time, gather your thoughts.
Thanks.
And just discuss it. There's nothing to. I mean, obviously you can be nervous because of the camera and the lights and the microphones and all that, but feel free to gather your thoughts and collect it. It's perfectly fine. I don't think we're necessarily going to edit anything out, but we'll see how that happens. But just go ahead and talk about the process a little bit more, and then I'll ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
So when you decided or realized that you may or may not have autism, and you decided to express that to people, what did that do for you and to you? Did you have any kind of emotional reaction? Did you feel like a weight had been lifted? Anything like that? Whenever she made a post on Facebook and Instagram letting everybody know that this is,
by the way,
how she feels. This is what she is, dealing with and experiencing. So she made that post, and a lot of people were really accepting of it, and she can talk more about that. But yeah, just go ahead and talk about that experience.
Okay. So it definitely was a weight lifted. But it's like 19, or I don't know. I think I was 19 when I figured it out. Anyway, like 19 years of not knowing like a major part of my identity is like not just gonna change everything. I mean, it did, but
right.
But it was like, it's like a process. That's the word. And I lose where I'm going when I start sentences.
That's fine. You'll find it eventually.
Probably not, but so it was weight lifted is what I'm trying to say. And like being sure about it from the beginning was a huge help.
Yeah. So a while back, Faith posted on her social media that she had diagnosed herself with autism and the effects of that. So she posted about it, and we had already had talks a little bit, the close family mostly, and she expressed her feelings and things, and like she said before, she is a private person. She keeps to herself. She doesn't really go outside much, and so it's a big deal when she expresses things of that nature. Like, it's a big deal for her to be here in general, just to do this for herself and for everybody else. That's why I asked her to do it. But she did post about it, and so I want you to kind of talk about that experience. Like, how did that feel to, I don't know if it felt like a weight was lifted or anything like that, but like, say what you did specifically and how that affected you, and then we'll get into the effect after that, as far as like the reaction from people and things like that. But go ahead and just talk about, what you did and how that affected you.
Okay. So like I said, a weight had been lifted for sure. And it kind of like gave me a space to like before I mentioned it to people, like I gave myself the space to figure it myself out first, which I wouldn't recommend not expressing your feelings, but for me it ended up being helpful to know what I was dealing with first, and expressing it eventually. Usually that's not something that makes me feel better about anything ever. Like, it's usually not, I don't get like a satisfaction from sharing my thoughts and stuff, in the past anyway. I don't know. Anyway, but this was like the biggest thing that explains like my entire existence. So to have that was, helpful to, I don't know, it was easier than,
well, I mean, you would assume that it would, have helped it, even in a small degree, but well, that's good. So like the reaction from people, I didn't see anything negative, so everything was really positive. A lot of people,
yes,
liked comment and things like that. So was there anything necessarily a reaction that you weren't really expecting that you got, or anything like that, like from a specific person or just in general?
Well, before I had shared it, it's like a big thing, so I of course had a lot of overthinking happening, and I expected like every possible scenario first.
You overanalyzed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a curse of our family.
yes, and I mean, I didn't like literally expect it to be negative response, but like I was prepared just in case for some reason. And then we have great people in our family and friends and all that, so everyone was very positive. I mean, even if they don't fully understand it, which the majority of people don't, I mean, it's hard to anyway.
It's difficult.
Yeah, and I don't expect people to, but it was still like accepting and stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're kind of a butthole if you react to something like that negative.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I assume that even if some things were disingenuous, everybody would still react positive and give you the support. Because, I mean, anybody that's dealing with things, and we've talked about it a little bit before, everybody kind of deals with their own things and their own struggles and stuff, and all you can do is just, support each other and love each other and just, handle the things together. Make each other be better, feel better, those types of things. Lift everybody up. especially in the climate that we're in right now. This world is just falling apart. We know the end times are here, but still, same time, if you lift each other up, I mean, then your existence is, that much better.
Indeed.
Right. So, okay, so you had a positive reaction and things like that. So, like, I'm sure your daily life is difficult.
A little bit.
Yeah. So, I used to joke with her a lot that she had misophonia because she can't stand noises and weird things. So, like, eating, beatboxing, most of the things that I like to do become really annoying to the point of, like, instant headaches and things like that. So she struggled with a lot of these different things. But, you don't have to go into depth, but talk about one of the things that you reached out and have, been taking part in, like your I don't know what you would call it. You go to therapy?
Not anymore, but yes.
Well, not anymore, but you were going to therapy. Talk about, that, because that's a big step to be able to talk to somebody directly about
yes.
everything. You don't have to go into detail because that's, private stuff, but you can still just talk about, that step of doing that and, how that helped you express yourself and things like that. Just go into some detail about that.
So therapy is literally, like, everything about it is everything I've avoided for my entire life. Like sitting with one person for a or whatever. What's that word?
Significant?
Yeah, but I don't think that's what I was going to say. Anyway.
Sitting with somebody for a significant amount of time?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, and then, like, literally the whole point is to say what you're feeling, and that's, like, never done that in the past. So it's terrifying, but I just felt like I was ready to not avoid life anymore. So that helped with that.
Great explanation,
Thank you.
Faith. Thank you so much. I could have probably done that myself, but thank you so
Whatever.
much for just kidding. Now, I mean, when Faith was little, she didn't talk to anybody. She didn't talk to her teachers, didn't really talk to her friends that much, and then we would get in the car to go home from school, and it was like a bomb went off, and she was just like, like she would just hold it in because she was comfortable with us. So getting comfortable is a difficult thing for people with, I don't want to call it this disorder or anything like that, but I know it is, but with people with autism or anything on that spectrum, it's difficult for people to get comfortable sometimes with other people, to let the guard down a little bit. So, that's essentially what was happening. So to be able to make that step now that you're an adult and you've been holding these things in and stuff is, it's a big step. So basically, if you could talk to anybody that might be watching this that feels this way or has somebody in their family that deals with this, like something that they could do to help support them, or anything like that. If you could give like some kind of advice, in a way, I think that would really interest the listeners and the watchers.
It's a great question. The main thing is not making assumptions. Like if you're a family member, friend, or whatever. Because it's like autism is neurological, so it's in your brain. So it's an inner thing.
That's what neurological means, in case anybody was confused about that.
And like it presents itself outwardly in certain scenarios, but it's mostly inside. And so it's really hard to actually know what someone's thinking in any way, but like especially, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but so not making assumptions based on like behavior, that also, I'm gonna go into something, is a thing. That's why it's so hard to diagnose, and
right.
all that is because usually children that are autistic, you have like everyone has this perception of like Rain Man or whatever, which is a valid and real thing that certain people deal with, but it's like based on behavior and meltdowns, and that's like what the criteria for diagnosing is based on. And a lot of times there's like a term in autism that's called masking, which is pretty self-explanatory, I think, but
Right.
And usually females do it way better for the most part, where they don't express outwardly their reactions to society and that kind of thing. And so it's hard to recognize it. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Right. So I mean, you're giving them advice, like not
Yes.
to judge and not to, assume anything.
yeah, like just ask what's someone needs
what's
to them.
going on, like giving somebody the support. Like, I mean, obviously I have my own family and we're aware, whatever. But Faith does live in Callahan, so she is close, and so I kind of give my support from afar, mostly. But this is a way of supporting with this podcast a little bit, just to give her an avenue to talk. And as you see, she can be articulate, but she does struggle with the communication part a lot of the times, being able to start here and finish here, those types of things. And a lot of people struggle with that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're autistic, but that is one of the issues. So that's a big thing. So thank you for bearing with us a little bit, and thank you for talking about those things a little bit. There is one thing on a more positive note. I want you to talk about your photography.
Okay.
A little bit, and you can verbally plug your social medias if you want. Josh can put them in afterwards.
Okay.
But Faith does photography. She does it for our church. She also does things on her own, side gigs, and then she just does photography all the time, and she's very talented.
Thanks.
And you should check it out, and I'll let her talk about it a little bit more.
Okay. So photography is my passion. I love it a lot. It's a way to express myself without having to socialize a whole lot. And you can check me out at Faith Nicole Photos, and also The Misadventures of Faith. It's my main Instagram, in case anyone is wondering. Yeah, I like it. I'm a big
Right.
fan.
So I mean, like she said, she can express herself a little bit differently without having to have that verbal communication with somebody. I mean, they do say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so you can technically talk a lot with just your photos. I mean, sometimes she just posts things with no captions, and it's just a photo. And something that our pastor, whenever he was talking to me about trying to get her involved doing the photography at the church. And one of the things he told me was, he's like, I love face photos. Please ask her if she'd be willing to. He's like, I don't want to impose on her or anything about asking, he said, but I love seeing the world through her eyes. And that's a really big deal, being able to express yourself to where people notice it and you're like, wow, I would have never been able to look at something that way. I mean, all art is kind of that way. It's an expression as well. So yeah, check her out. And give her a like, a follow, whatever the cool kids do these days. But yeah, so thank you for talking about this. We might have more episodes with Faith to be able to talk a little bit more. As you can see, she's a little bit nervous, but that's okay. But thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys for listening as well. Now we're on to the fact of the day. Fact of the day. I want to give you guys a little bit of information, something that you did not know before, so you can learn and progress. Okay, fact of the day. Faith, did you know that if you bang your head on the wall for 1 hour straight, that burns 150 calories?
I did not.
And it also gives you severe brain damage. Just a little fact for you. Yeah. So, thank you so much for listening. And I just want to leave you guys with my daily advice, if I can. Again, be better. Make everybody better around you. Lift people up. If this episode can teach you anything and you can get anything from it is don't judge people. Don't, assume things. Lift each other up. Ask the necessary questions. Help a brother out. Help somebody out in any way that you can. Some people just need your support and your love. They don't actually need something from you physically, but others do. So read the room, if I could say that to you. But again, be better. Lift each other up. Love one another. Thank you so much. This is the To Be Frank podcast.